Be sure to subscribe to the channel and let's promote respect for the Royal Guard together. Let the whole world see how many of us there are.
When a Royal Guardsman broke strict protocol to hug a disabled girl, the crowd froze. This moment touched the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. The square in front of Buckingham Palace buzzed with anticipation. People from all over the world had gathered to witness the changing of the guard, a tradition that embodies the grandeur and precision of royal protocol. The clicks of cameras, whispers, and occasional laughter blended into a single hum of excitement. Amid this sea of tourists, one figure stood out, 9-year-old Emily. She sat in a wheelchair, which her father carefully pushed through the crowd. A navy blue dress with delicate white flowers accentuated her frailty, while her neatly tied ponytail of glossy dark hair revealed a face full of purity and childlike wonder. But her gaze revealed something even more remarkable, an extraordinary strength of spirit. Today was a special day. Since morning, Emily had been talking about the Royal Guards, imagining them just as she had seen in books and movies, noble, majestic, and almost magical. She couldn't believe that soon she would see them in person. "Dad, are they coming soon?" she asked, leaning forward to get a better view of the road. "Yes, sweetheart, just a little patience," her father replied, trying to mask his nervousness behind her joyful smile. For Emily, being closer to a world that had always felt out of reach was a dream come true. This wasn't just the changing of the guard. It was a glimpse of magic that made life brighter. The crowd began to quiet down, as if nature itself was preparing for the moment. In the distance, a faint but steady sound could be heard, the rhythmic stomp of the guards' boots as they marched toward the square. At first, the sound was barely noticeable, but it grew louder, more powerful, filling the air with a sense of ceremony. "They're coming!" Emily exclaimed, her eyes widening with excitement. And then, finally, they appeared. The Royal Guards marched in a perfectly aligned formation, their scarlet tunics glowing under the morning sun, their tall, bearskin hats adding an almost mythical aura. Every step was precise, calculated to perfection. Emily watched them with bated breath, barely blinking, afraid to miss even a moment. "They're so beautiful," she whispered, as if speaking too loudly might break the magic of the moment. Her father didn't reply. Instead, he gripped the handles of her wheelchair a little tighter, watching his daughter come alive with joy. One guardsman, in particular, caught her attention. He was a tall, slender man, no older than 25. His posture was flawless, and his focused expression resembled a granite statue. Every step he took was filled with dignity. As he drew closer, Emily's eyes stayed fixed on him. She noticed the gleam of the gold buttons on his tunic, the shine of his perfectly polished black shoes. In her mind, he became a knight from a fairy tale, striding past her as if from another world. She smiled, her eyes glowing with awe. This moment was everything she had hoped for, the culmination of the magic she had been waiting so long to experience. In her heart, a spark of hope ignited, a hope that this day would be unforgettable. But as Emily admired the majestic ceremony, she had no idea that the moment she would remember most was still to come, a moment that would change this day forever. The changing of the guard continued, mesmerizing the crowd with the precision and grace of every movement. The guards, like a living mechanism, marched in perfect formation, maintaining strict rhythm and order. Their scarlet tunics and tall bearskin hats gleamed under the sun, creating the impression that history was coming alive before everyone's eyes. The crowd stood in reverent silence, captivated by the majestic spectacle. Emily, seated in her wheelchair, couldn't take her eyes off the guardsman who had especially caught her attention. He stood out not only for his impeccable posture but for something else, a quiet, inner strength that seemed to radiate with every step. To Emily, he was more than just a soldier. He was the embodiment of a fairy tale knight guarding a royal castle. She gazed at him with admiration, a spark of hope twinkling in her eyes. "Dad," she suddenly said, turning her head. Her voice was soft, but it carried a note of determined longing. "I want a picture with him." Her father froze, unsure of how to respond. He knew how much this moment meant to his daughter, but he also understood that the guards couldn't be distracted, let alone break protocol for a photo. "Sweetheart, they can't stop," he explained gently, trying not to dampen her excitement. "It's against the rules." Emily lowered her gaze for a moment, her shoulders slumping slightly, but after a brief pause, she lifted her head again and whispered, "But I really want it." Her voice trembled, and her father felt his heart ache. For most people, asking for a photo with a guardsman would have been a small, insignificant request. But for Emily, who rarely had the chance to be part of ordinary moments, this wish was a true dream. Her father looked at her and realized he had to at least try. He raised his hand, attempting to catch the attention of one of the passing guards. But as expected, the guard maintained his stoic expression and steady march, paying no attention to the crowd. Emily watched as the guardsman walked past, not noticing them. She lowered her head again, but there was no anger or disappointment on her face. Instead, she smiled quietly, as if reassuring herself. "I understand." Her eyes, however, remained fixed on that same guardsman. He now stood a short distance away, motionless, strict, and seemingly part of a monumental sculpture. There was such strength and calmness about him that Emily couldn't look away. She smiled again, not a smile of frustration, but a warm, grateful one. Her gaze, filled with admiration, seemed to send him a silent message. "I know you can't respond, but I'm still glad you're here." For Emily, this moment, though it didn't fulfill her dream, was still meaningful. She had learned to find joy in even the smallest things, and for now, this was enough. But what Emily didn't yet realize was that her smile had already changed the course of this day. The changing of the guard ceremony was in full swing. The guards, moving like a single flawless machine, marched with impeccable synchronization. Their faces remained focused and motionless, betraying no hint of emotion. The crowd watched in awe, captivated by the discipline and grandeur of the ceremony. Emily, as before, couldn't take her eyes off her knight in the scarlet tunic. His rigid posture, unwavering focus, and complete lack of reaction to the world around him only made him seem more impressive in her eyes. Her face still held a kind but slightly wistful smile. And then something changed. His gaze. The young guardsman Emily had been watching from the start suddenly noticed her. It was just a fleeting moment. His eyes rested on the girl in the wheelchair for only a second, but that was enough. Her dark eyes, filled with hope and wonder, seemed to pierce through him. They spoke more than any words ever could. To him, she wasn't just another girl in the crowd. Her smile conveyed something special, pure joy and admiration mixed with timid anticipation. Something clicked inside him. He knew he wasn't supposed to break protocol. Guardsmen don't get distracted, don't speak, don't react. But sometimes, rules fade in importance when faced with something genuine. To the crowd's astonishment, the guardsman took a step forward. His movements were precise and confident, yet not abrupt. The crowd gasped. Everyone nearby froze, unable to believe what they were seeing. "What is he doing?" someone in the front row whispered. "This is a breach of protocol," another voice noted. But no one could look away, and many had already raised their phones to record this extraordinary moment. The guardsman crossed the boundary between himself and the spectators, stopping directly in front of Emily's wheelchair. He was tall and imposing, but his movements exuded warmth and respect. Then he knelt down on one knee so his eyes were level with hers. Emily froze, her small hands resting on the wheelchair, trembling slightly with excitement. "Hello, young lady," he said softly, his deep voice carrying surprising gentleness. Emily stared at him, unable to believe her ears. Her eyes sparkled with joy, and the happiest smile imaginable spread across her face. "You're the most beautiful princess I've seen today," he added, with a slight smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Those words filled Emily's world with warmth so profound she felt she might cry from happiness. The crowd, watching the moment unfold, first stood silent and then broke into applause. Some people smiled broadly, while others wiped away tears. It was a moment that touched everyone's hearts. "He's a true hero," whispered a woman in the crowd as she dabbed at her eyes. The guardsman, who was supposed to be an impassive symbol of royal discipline, had done something no one expected. He revealed that behind the strict rules and perfect posture lay a human heart. This moment became more than just part of the changing of the guard. It became a symbol of kindness that would remain in the memories of everyone who witnessed it for years to come. The guardsman gently extended his hand, putting his arm around Emily's shoulders to help her take a photo. Her father, hands trembling as he held the camera, captured the moment. Emily's face glowed with happiness. "Thank you," she whispered. "My pleasure," the guardsman replied as he stood up. He returned to the formation as though nothing had happened. But his action had already become a part of history. The crowd broke into even louder applause, with people shouting words of gratitude. That day, the photo of Emily and the guardsman spread across social media. People commented on how one small break from protocol had made such a big difference. This is what humanity looks like. A royal guardsman became a hero for this little girl. These moments remind us that behind traditions are real people. For Emily, it was the best day of her life. For the guardsman, it was a reminder that sometimes simple acts mean more than strict adherence to rules.